Let him cook! Let him cook now! Let him cook! I said let him cook!
What is up everybody, Jay here, and today I will be tackling one of the most contentious topics in the Naruto-verse. Today I'll be ranking the top 10 strongest Chunin exam participants from weakest to strongest, and I thought I'd do this video knowing this topic in particular being one of the most debated and discussed topics throughout the Naruto-verse, with hopefully this video being a source of reference when discussing the topic. Now to preface this video, I'll be ranking their participants based on their strongest versions up until the conclusion of the Chunin exam arc itself, which encompasses chapters 34 to 119 of the manga respectively, which means Gaara fight QB amped Naruto not being a part of this list. Now without further ado, let's get straight to it. At number 10 we got Dosu. I know a lot of people consider Dosu to be one of the strongest participants in the Chunin exams. However, based on the empirical evidence available, it is hard to place Dosu any higher than this, and I'll explain why. Dosu during the Chunin exams is first displayed having trouble with Rock Lee in the Forest of Death, which resulted in Zaku softening the blow of Rock Lee's front lotus. Dosu then uses his resonating echo speaker to take Rock Lee out, who was already weakened by using the front lotus technique, which requires a first gate. He is then later shown easily dealing with a mentally amped Choji during the preliminary rounds, with it being stated in the databook he wins completely without a problem, indicating how easy of a fight it was for him. From these empirical feats, we can extrapolate that he is inferior to first gate Rock Lee, with it being safe to deduce that Dosu would have fallen to Lee if Zaku wasn't there to soften the impact of Lee's front lotus. Aside from this, there isn't much else you could say for conclude as far as Dosu's scaling, with there being no other feats to extrapolate from. Hence the reason why Dosu just makes it on the list at number 10.
So, does this hurt, punk?
At number 9 we have Conqueror. So firstly, for those wondering why is he below Tamari, spoiler alert, Tamari is at the very least a decent counter against Conqueror, being a long distance fighter, meaning she would more than likely keep Conqueror and his puppets and overall arsenal at bay, while also damaging him with their wing-based attacks. Now during the Chunin exams, Conqueror thoroughly and dominantly defeats Tsurugi, and with his puppet mastery he quickly disposes of Tsurugi, breaking several bones in his body, rendering him disabled and unable to continue. To add to the impressiveness of this, Conqueror actually comes into this fight not even taking it seriously, as implied by Gaara in accompanying San Jonin Baki, which only further illuminates the high caliber shinobi Conqueror was in comparison to most other participants in the Chunin exams. However, similar to Dosu, there aren't many feats of Conqueror at all in this arc, resulting in me only being able to place him here safely.
You see, while an ace in the hole is good, two aces are better.
At number 8 we have Shino. This is the only time I use a feat to substantiate a ranking not in the Chunin exam arc, with that being Shino's narrow victory over Conqueror at the beginning of the Konoha Crush arc, hence the reason why Shino is above Conqueror here. Now to get into the actual feats Shino accomplishes during the Chunin exams, like Conqueror, he has a dominant performance against Zaku, where he utilizes his Kyakachuk parasitic destruction beetles to cause Zaku's arms to blow off when attempting to use a sound-based attack. But to once again reiterate, due to the limited empirical set of evidence, it is hard to place Shino any higher than this. Now for those who say Shino and Conqueror were weaker here than during their battle later on, they both have similar dominant performances, allowing me to safely induce the gap between the two isn't much different later on than it is here. But if you disagree, that's fine, and make sure to leave in the comment section below why you think Conqueror would be stronger here, but slightly inferior later on during the Konoha Crush arc.
Well, local hottie.
Next up we have Tamari. Tamari is known for her pseudo-victory to Shikamaru despite Shikamaru forfeiting the match, and I'll explain why I call her victory that soon. We first see Tamari have a dominant performance against Tenten, where she beat her so easily and dominantly that in the manga we don't even see the battle itself, but simply see Tenten beaten and defeated. The databook even describes the battle as a shutout victory for Tamari, only further illuminating the absolute dominance Tamari had in that battle. Now the next battle she participates in will be analyzed further in the next spot on this list, with this spot belonging to, as most of you probably have already guessed, Shikamaru. Shikamaru was famous for blatantly outsmarting Tamari during their match multiple times and receiving very high praise from his sensei Asuma. Now to analyze this final round fight, we first see Shikamaru react to Tamari running at him, which is already impressive in itself, considering again how badly Tenten lost to Tamari. We then see Shikamaru essentially have this chess match with Tamari, where he outsmarts her on multiple occasions until he essentially checkmates her. And again, despite him forfeiting the match, it is blatantly clear that Shikamaru got the best of Tamari. Now besides his performance against Tamari, what also reinforces and substantiates Shikamaru's placing on this list is his very high intelligence. His intelligence is so superior to an average shinobi his age that Asuma admits that he's never beaten Shikamaru in a game of shogi, and also states his IQ is over 200. Hence his intelligence would more than likely result in him getting the best of the rest of the participants below this spot, despite them possibly having more versatile arsenals tangibly. We now get into the top 5 of this list, with the 5th spot going to Neji. Now, to preface this analysis specifically, I would like to start out by stating that it is important to go off the actual empirical evidence provided, rather than creating claims based off more so lore establishing empirical pieces of evidence, such as Tenten's statement where she says Neji's defense is absolute and better than Gaara's. You are more guaranteed to come to a more accurate and valid deduction if you prioritize and more so revere actual feats rather than statements for the most part. But to now get to Neji's scaling, an important observation to make is the fear that other participants have of Neji from just his presence alone. We see this when Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji sort of bow down to him and tell him what he wants to hear to avoid an unnecessary battle. We then see this again with Team Dosu when Neji and Tenten catch up to Rock Lee. These moments further reinforce the caliber of shinobi Neji was and reinforce his superiority over the majority of the participants. In fact, the databook itself blatantly states that Neji is already at a Chunin level. Now, where we can really start to scale Neji is in his battle against Naruto. Neji deals with dozens of Naruto clones that are stated to be equivalent in chakra, implying a most likely power as well, without having a single hit land on him. He then still successfully reacts to Naruto, who attempts to catch him off guard with a clone followed by himself. Neji deals with base Naruto relatively easily and utilizes the 64 palms on him. This now brings us to the next spot on the list, with spot number 4 belonging to Naruto. Naruto against Neji, as stated earlier, was successfully able to utilize shadow clones with chakra equally distributed amongst all clones, which is very impressive for a shinobi of his age, which is described as a Jonin level technique. He thoroughly was handled by Neji in base, but closes the gap in caliber when his power is amplified by the Nine Tails. His speed is immediately enough to contend with Neji, with his AP being strong enough to bypass Neji's palm rotation defenses, enough to cause him considerable damage, where he then creates another shadow clone to subdue Neji with one uppercut. It is clearly displayed that Naruto jumps in caliber significantly when attaining this Nine Tail power amplification, surpassing Neji's caliber in the process. Furthermore, this allows us to safely deduce that if Naruto is able to blatantly defeat an individual with blatant Chunin level skills, then he more than likely would deal with anyone below this spot on the list. We now get into the top 3, with spot number 3 going to Rock Lee. We see Rock Lee tap into his potential against Gaara in the preliminary rounds. Here we see weightless Rock Lee almost able to outspeed Gaara's outside stand defense, which puts a visible face of concern on Gaara, with 5th gate Rock Lee being possibly dozens of times stronger than that Rock Lee, according to Kakashi. Once Rock Lee opened the 4th gate, Gaara's outside stand defense was too slow to protect him. However, despite Rock Lee being fast enough in the 4th gate and above to get past Gaara's outside defense, he still lacked the AP to bypass his inside defense sufficiently, which is the sort of sand that cocoons around his body. Hence, that combined with his own body's limitations is the reason why Gaara was able to defeat him in the end at his current level of power. Now, for those wondering where is the Neji Rock Lee comparison, here it is. Since unfortunately we never got to see Rock Lee face Neji in the Chunin exams, we can only build a premise on the matter based on what we see empirically. Hence, based off Rock Lee's statement where he says he saved a move within his 5th gate arsenal for Neji, and Neji's statement where he verbally and visually expresses his genuine shock to the speed and caliber of 4th gate Rock Lee and above, Rock Lee from the 4th gate on is more than likely superior to Neji. Now, for those that say that Neji got stronger from here to the finals, it is far-fetched to assume that Neji got 5 to possibly more times stronger in that period of time, as just the 1st gate alone provides you a 5 times increase in power, implying that the 4th gate provides a substantially higher increase. Hence, with these pieces of empirical evidence and rational deductions in mind, concluding 4th gate Rock Lee and above is stronger than Neji is more than likely the reality.
I am Sasuke Uchiha.
At number 2 we got Sasuke. Now, to immediately debunk the argument that 5th gate Rock Lee is superior to Sasuke, it is stated in the databook blatantly that Sasuke is the strongest opponent that Gaara has ever faced up until that point in time, i.e. he's superior to 5th gate Rock Lee. In his fight against Gaara, base Sasuke's speed is comparable to a weightless Rock Lee's, while also having enough AP to send a stronger Gaara than what Rock Lee fought flying. What makes this more impressive is that Gaara has not only gotten stronger since the Rock Lee fight, but also more mentally amped and bloodlusted, which is indicated by Conqueror, Shikamaru, and Naruto, along with the databook which implies this as well. Furthermore, Sasuke in base is then unable to penetrate the sand dome Gaara creates to set up a secret jutsu, but then with the Chidori is able to penetrate the high density dome so thoroughly that he even blatantly wounds Gaara. Not only can we argue Sasuke's AP is considerably higher than even 5th Gate Rock Lee's based on the high density of Gaara's Sand Dome, but this also indicates the high possibility that Sasuke here is considerably faster in comparison to him just utilizing taijutsu, since force equals mass times acceleration. Acceleration is the rate of change in velocity, which indicates that Sasuke's change in speed has increased with the force of his attack increasing as a byproduct of that. Hence, it is more than safe to deduce that Sasuke with Chidori is considerably faster than weightless Rock Lee, with the AP being so high visibly that it allows us to even possibly conclude that Chidori Sasuke is faster than 5th Gate Rock Lee, since again, Rock Lee's AP wasn't even adequate enough to subdue Gaara nor wound him, let alone bypass this Gaara's high density Sand Dome defense. Furthermore, with the battle ending prematurely to the attempted Konoha invasion, the proctor refers to Sasuke as blatantly being at a Chunin level, so it is very clear and blatant that Sasuke is the top 2 strongest within the Chunin exams at this point in time. Finally, taking the top spot on this list, as I'm sure most of you have already guessed, we have Gaara. Gaara is an interesting character to scale in the Chunin exams because narratively, we can observe that he is almost always on the defensive, and we never really see him go on the offensive outright until after the Chunin exams, with the commencement of the attempted invasion of Konoha, and he still manages to defeat 5th Gate's Rock Lee and begins to pressure Sasuke at the end of their battle. However, we clearly are all aware of what he is truly capable of even before that. I'm sure I don't really need to elaborate any further, and I'm sure no one is very surprised by this one, but yes, Gaara was the strongest participant in the Chunin exams, arguably up until the official ending of the Chunin exam arc in chapter 119. But there you guys have it, folks. That is my list, and trust me, I am very aware of the inevitable disagreements that some of you will have with this list, so feel free to drop a comment below and explain where I was wrong in your eyes, or just to give a thought in general. Interesting note though, is that despite the top 5 being the most debated in the community, ironically the bottom half of my list was the more contentious part of the list for me when making this video due to the lack of empirical evidence when it comes to these participants. But anyways, I hope you folks enjoyed the video, enjoyed the ranking, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay classy.